East German border, October 13th, 1964, 2:47 a.m. Conrad Schumann stands frozen at checkpoint Charlie, rifle pointed at the ground. His hands shake. Third guard rotation that night, unusual. The guard tower spotlight sweeps past him twice. He doesn't move. A pack of Marlboros sits visible in his jacket pocket, American brand, forbidden. West Berlin is 50 meters away. Sirens are already starting. The radio crackles. Schumann, report position. He drops the rifle. His boot crosses the white chalk line on the pavement. You can almost see the moment freeze. He had 90 seconds before the tower could see him clearly. But here's the thing nobody asks. How did an East German soldier get American cigarettes 3 years into the wall? And what he carried in that pack would change Cold War intelligence forever. This isn't about courage. It's about what you trade when freedom costs more than your life. 3 years earlier, August 15th, 1961, a different moment made history. A young border guard named Conrad Schumann jumped over barbed wire at Bernauer Strasse in broad daylight. The photo went everywhere. His body suspended mid-leap, boots off the ground, rifle abandoned. It became the defining image of Cold War defiance. West Germany celebrated him. Newspapers called him a hero. But Schumann never gave interviews. He worked in a Bavaria factory, kept his head down, chain-smoked Marlboros. At night, he had the same dream. Crossing again, but this time walking, not jumping. People who knew him said he seemed haunted. His wife mentioned he kept a pack of cigarettes in a locked drawer. When asked why, he'd just shake his head. The famous photo showed a moment of freedom. What nobody knew was that it also showed the beginning of a trap. Because the jump wasn't just escape, it was recruitment. By mid-1964, Schumann was living in West Germany under a new name, working assembly lines, drinking too much, but East Berlin hadn't forgotten him. In September, his mother received a visit. 2 men in gray coats. They didn't threaten. They just reminded her that her son's defection had consequences. Then they left. A week later, Schumann found a pack of Marlboros in his apartment mailbox. No note. He opened it carefully. Inside, wrapped in cellophane, was a small photograph. His mother, taken recently, standing outside her apartment. On the back of the pack, written in pencil, "She's still here." Schumann stared at it for an hour. His father had been Stasi, a fact he'd learned only after defecting. His father's death in 1962 wasn't a heart attack. It was staged, leverage. And now they had his mother. The cigarettes were American, which meant they came through Western channels. Someone was playing both sides. The message was clear. You're not free. You never were. Western intelligence had been watching Schumann since 1961. The BND, West German intelligence, and CIA operatives stationed in Berlin saw him as a symbol, but also as an asset. His famous escape gave him access, credibility, a public face. According to former operatives, border guards who defected were marked for recruitment. Not by the East, by the West. The logic was simple. If you'd risk your life once, you'd do it again. Schumann didn't know it, but his jump had made him valuable to 3 intelligence services. The Americans wanted eyes on East German patrol schedules. The Stasi wanted him back, or at least controlled. And the KGB watched both sides, waiting to see who moved first. Cigarettes became the tradecraft. A pack of Marlboros could carry microfilm, coded messages, extraction coordinates. In Cold War Berlin, contraband wasn't just smuggling, it was communication. And Schumann, the famous defector, was about to become a courier. His father's Stasi connections weren't a liability. They were the whole point. Between 1949 and 1989, more than 5,000 people attempted to cross the Berlin Wall. At least 140 died trying. Schumann's 1961 escape made him an instant celebrity in the West, but he refused interviews, avoided public appearances. Western intelligence agencies confirmed that East German guards were primary targets for recruitment. Both sides wanted them turned. Schumann's silence wasn't modesty, it was survival. After his defection, he chain-smoked Marlboros exclusively, always the same red pack. Friends said he carried one everywhere, even to bed. When asked why American cigarettes, he'd say, "They remind me of choices." The habit seemed ordinary. It wasn't. October 1964. Checkpoint Charlie operated on a 6-hour rotation system. Guards switched at predictable intervals, 2 a.m., 8 a.m., 2 p.m., 8 p.m. Schumann's sector, before defection, had been Bernauer Strasse. But intelligence networks didn't follow borders. They followed people. A guard named Weber appeared in the rotation logs. East German, mid-30s, veteran of the original wall construction. Weber carried a pack of Marlboros during his cigarette breaks, visible from the West Berlin observation posts. BND agents noticed it immediately. The brand was wrong. Guards didn't have access to American tobacco unless someone supplied it. Schumann, living in Bavaria, received a phone call. The voice didn't identify itself. Same pack, same message. You know what to do. Schumann hung up. 2 days later, another pack arrived at his apartment. This time the bottom had a phone number engraved on the inside flap. When he called, a man answered in German. "Weber needs extraction. You're the only one he'll trust." Schumann realized the cigarettes weren't about his mother. They were about going back. The truth, according to those who knew, was darker. Schumann's 1961 jump had been partially staged. Not the jump itself, but the setup. Western intelligence had fed information to guards about weak points in the barricade, timing of shift changes, blind spots in the tower surveillance. Schumann didn't know he was part of an operation. He thought he was acting alone. The photo made him a hero, but it also made him controllable. Once in the West, he was valuable, a symbol who could move between worlds if needed. The cigarette packs carried microfilm, schedules of East German patrol changes, maps of new fortifications, lists of guards considered vulnerable to recruitment. Schumann's role wasn't escaping, it was smuggling information back east, disguised as a former defector visiting old contacts. His mother wasn't just leverage, she was the anchor. According to former operatives, one retired BND officer said in the 1990s, Schumann crossed that wall more than once. The photo only shows the first time. Chapter 6, 165 words. By early October, surveillance on Schumann intensified. Stasi agents in East Berlin tracked Weber. BND operatives tracked Schumann. The KGB tracked both. Everyone wanted the same thing: control of the cigarette network. Schumann was caught in the middle, a symbol who couldn't afford to be seen but couldn't afford to disappear. On October 7th, Weber failed to show for his shift. Tower logs listed him as absent without leave. 2 days later, his apartment was raided. Empty. No forwarding address. Schumann's phone rang that night. "Weber's gone. You're next." The Stasi knew. The BND knew the Stasi knew, and Schumann, sitting in his Bavaria apartment with a Marlboro pack on the table, knew the only way out was to cross again. This time, not as a defector, as a double agent coming home. The photograph of his mother sat beside the cigarettes. He hadn't seen her in 3 years. If he went back, he might never leave. If he didn't, she'd vanish. Freedom costs. It always costs. October 9th, 1964. Stasi officers raided the East Berlin barracks where Schumann had served. They questioned guards, searched lockers, confiscated contraband. Weber's disappearance triggered a sweep. Everyone who'd rotated through Checkpoint Charlie in the past 6 months was interviewed. Schumann's name came up, not because he was there, but because someone mentioned the cigarettes. A young guard admitted receiving a pack of Marlboros from an unknown source, American brand. Found in his locker with a note from Schumann, "Stay strong." The guard had never met Schumann. The note was fake. But the Stasi believed it. The cigarettes were bait. Not for Schumann, for the entire network. Western intelligence had planted them to see who'd react, who'd move, who'd run. Schumann realized the setup when his phone went silent. No more calls, no more packs. The operation wasn't about extraction, it was about exposure. His 1961 escape wasn't heroism. It was the opening move of a recruitment scheme that turned border guards into assets. And the famous photo? That was the ad. You think you know where this is going. You don't. October 13th, 1964. Night shift. Schumann returned to Berlin, not as a resident, but as a ghost. He carried the Marlboro pack from his apartment, the one with his mother's photo inside. BND had given him a choice: cross back to extract intelligence on who'd been turned, or lose everything: his mother, his identity, his safety. A new guard appeared at checkpoint. Charlie, younger, nervous, holding a pack of Marlboros in his left hand. Schumann recognized the signal. The guard whispered, "Weber sent me. You have 90 seconds when the tower rotates." Schumann asked, "Where's Weber?" The guard shook his head. "Dead. Stasi found him in Leipzig. You're the last one." The Marlboro pack didn't contain microfilm this time. It contained extraction coordinates, a safe house address in West Berlin, a contact number, and a message. Crossing proves loyalty. If Schumann walked across, he'd confirm he was still operational. If he didn't, the network would assume he'd been turned. His hand tightened on the pack. This is what freedom costs, not courage. Certainty you'll never get back. The mechanics were simple. Guard tower at checkpoint. Charlie rotated every 4 minutes, radio check every 6. Between 2:45 and 2:49 a.m., there was a 90-second window where the spotlight swept east away from the checkpoint line. The guard on duty, this new one, name unknown, radioed in early. "All clear." Then he stepped aside. Schumann walked, not running, not jumping, just walking, boots on pavement, rifle left behind, pack of Marlboros in his jacket pocket. The white chalk line marking the border passed beneath him. He crossed into West Berlin at 2:47 a.m. A car waited. BND operatives pulled him inside. No celebration, no photos. Just a debrief in a safe house off Kurfürstendamm. They asked about Weber. Schumann told them, dead. They asked about the network. He said, collapsed. They asked about the cigarettes. He pulled the pack from his pocket, set it on the table, and said, "This is all that's left." Inside, his mother's photo, a list of names and coordinates for a dead drop in East Berlin. The trade was complete. Silence for safety. The photo stays famous. The truth stays buried. Post-1964, Schumann returned to Bavaria. Factory work, quiet life. Depression followed, documented in later psychological evaluations. He rarely spoke about the wall, never about the second crossing. In 1967, his mother died in East Berlin. He couldn't attend the funeral. West German authorities listed travel as inadvisable. Schumann kept the Marlboro pack in a metal box, locked, stored under his bed. His wife found it once and asked what was inside. He said, "Proof I'm not a hero." The CIA declassified reports in the 2000s confirming that dozens of East German guards had been turned, recruited, leveraged, used. Schumann was one name among many, but his photo made him different. Symbols carry weight that operatives don't. When people saw the 1961 image, they saw freedom. Schumann saw the beginning of a trap he never escaped. According to those who knew him, he never smoked Marlboros again after 1964, switched to a German brand. When asked why, he said, "American cigarettes remind me of lies." The second crossing wasn't heroic, it was transactional. And the transaction cost him everything he thought freedom meant. Through the 1970s and 80s, Schumann lived in silence, worked, drank, avoided cameras. When the Berlin Wall fell in November 1989, journalists found him. They wanted the hero's perspective. Television crews showed up at his door. He refused most interviews, but one reporter asked the right question. "Do you regret jumping?" Schumann paused. Then he said, "I regret what came after." When pressed, he pulled the Marlboro pack from his pocket, the same one weathered now, cellophane cracked. He held it up. The reporter didn't understand. Schumann explained, "This isn't about courage, it's about cigarettes and choices." The footage aired briefly, then disappeared. Too confusing. The public wanted a hero story. Schumann was offering something else, the cost of being turned into a symbol. In 1990, he attended a wall memorial ceremony. Photographers asked him to pose near the remains of Bernauer Strasse. He did. But afterward, he told a friend, "The photo made me famous, the second crossing made me free, and I'm still not sure which one was worse." Truth destroys legends. That's why legends survive. June 20th, 1998. Conrad Schumann died by suicide near Munich. He was 56 years old. Depression, documented over decades, isolation, the burden of being a symbol while living as a secret. His last interview, weeks before his death, mentioned cigarettes and choices. The journalist didn't follow up. After his death, family members found the metal box under his bed. Inside the Marlboro pack, his mother's photo, and a folded piece of paper. The paper contained 6 words written in pencil. "Freedom is what you carry across." Intelligence files, partially declassified in the 2000s, confirmed what many suspected. Schumann had worked as an unwilling asset for Western intelligence, leveraged through family, used because his fame made him credible. The famous 1961 photo became a Cold War icon. The 1964 crossing stayed classified for 30 years. Symbols cost more than their subjects. Schumann knew that. He lived it. And in the end, he couldn't carry the weight anymore. The cigarettes, the choices, the double life. The legend survived. The man didn't. The Marlboro pack sits now in a German historical archive in Berlin, preserved behind glass. Red and white, cellophane cracked, bottom marked with faded pencil. The museum label reads, "Cigarette pack, belonging to Conrad Schumann, defector, 1961. No mention of 1964. No mention of the second crossing. No mention of intelligence operations, leverage, or the cost of being turned into propaganda. Visitors see the pack and think of freedom. They think of the photo, boots off the ground, barbed wire below, a young man leaping toward a new life. What they don't see, the message on the bottom, still there if you look closely. 6 words, the same 6 words written on the paper found after his death. Freedom is what you carry across. Schumann crossed twice. Once as a hero, once as a ghost. The cigarette stayed with him. The secret stayed buried. And the legend that never went anywhere. In the end, it's not about jumping. It's about what you leave behind when you land.